So on July 20, 2009, my mother called me and told me that my father had been rushed to the hospital. Now this wasn't unusual. This was about the 10th time in 3 years that she called me with that kind of announcement. So we kind of had fallen in a routine with these kinds of calls, and she said she would keep me updated. But she said this time things were very serious and that he was refusing to be intubated, he was having trouble breathing, and the doctors were saying that he could stop breathing at any time. So I kind of felt a little bit of emotion rising up within me, but it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I said, okay, well, I'll be here and you keep me updated. And she said she'd call me as she got more information from the doctors. So I settled into my work. And throughout that day, there really wasn't any better news. And they had gotten him into ICU. And by this time, my mother had been calling other family members, and people were starting to head into New Jersey to see my father, because it was really looking like this time, this was it, and we might lose him. And my usual thing when I got this kind of news was to head to New Jersey also with my family, but this time was different. I kind of felt I don't know that I would call it a calmness. I just didn't feel something that was telling me to go. So I settled back into my work, and it took about 2-3 days for the doctors really to figure out what was happening with my father. And he was still in intensive care. And by the 4th day, they finally hit pay dirt and figured out what was going on, and they moved him to another room. And it was at that particular time when I heard a very clear message: it's time for you to go to New Jersey. And so I made my reservations, and I got there the very next morning. And when I got to my father's room and saw him, things were kind of different. His eyes were different. They didn't have the usual light in his eyes, because I was used to, when I came home, he would greet me when I came into the house, and his eyes just kind of danced. He had the prettiest light brown eyes, and they would just dance, and a smile would just come over his face, and he would make all kinds of protestations to say, oh, I shouldn't have come up, why did you spend money to come see me, and you shouldn't have taken time away from your job and your husband. But this time he said, baby, I'm glad to see you. Thanks for coming. So again, that was another signal that something was a little different. And those 4 days that we spent together, because I was staying throughout the weekend, I arrived on a Friday and I was going to leave on Tuesday, we had basically to ourselves, because all the rest of our family headed back home, and as soon as he was moved to a regular room, they all figured he was going to be okay and he was going to be home soon. But I knew from spending time with him that things were just different. And so we spent some very special time together. I would show up at like 10 a.m. in the morning and stay until they put me out at night. And often the nurses would let me stay until 10, 11 at night, or even midnight, or until I got tired, and I would go home and go to sleep. And I'd come right back the next morning. We'd spend all day together. And so it was just kind of me and my dad having time and talking to each other and musing about life. And one of those days, I didn't realize at the moment, but he was going back over his life and making peace with everything and with everyone in the family, and saying that he knew that everybody was in a good place and that he was at peace with where we were. And so throughout this 4 days, and especially throughout that time prior to heading to New Jersey, I felt this undercurrent of peace. Despite the fact that my life felt in chaos at the same time. Because here was my hero, my protector, my mentor, my daddy, and I can get like a little girl around him. I was daddy's little girl, like I said last week. And he's in the hospital, and we don't know what's going to happen. And I knew that something might happen, but everybody kept saying, gee, he's doing better now. So this peace that I had underneath the seemingly chaos helped me stay lifted. That I don't think I could have accomplished probably 5 or 10 years earlier. So what is this peace that buoys us in time of trouble? And how do we find it? And I know that I could not have accomplished that before I had a regular meditation practice. And before I had an experience of peace on a daily basis. And we talked about meditation and quiet time and solitude and prayer time last week. And we're going to talk about this a lot because it really is the key to being able to embrace life in a way that I don't think we normally could, only in our humanity. So daily for years, I would sit in the quiet. And when you do that and you discipline yourself to do it, especially when you don't feel like it, you get to know and recognize the peace of God. The peace of God doesn't mean everything's fine. The peace of God means that you know the foundation on which you stand is solid. And that no matter what is happening, that you are lifted, that you are surrounded, and that you are strengthened. Even as your tears flow. Even as you're wrapped up in all kinds of emotions that sometimes we don't know what to do with. Because believe me, in those 4 days I spent with my father, there was one day that I wept all day long as he slept. And I watched him breathe. All day. For probably 12 hours or more. And every couple of hours or so, he would wake up and he would look at me and he would say, "Thank you for being here, baby." And he'd fall right back to sleep. And I would just cry. So when you're wrapped up in your humanity and your humanness and your emotions and whatever is going on, God still is there. In the tears, in the pain, in the discomfort, in your anger. And you can recognize that God is still there if you know and you recognize God in your daily living. In the times when you're not struggling so much. On the days when your grocery list or the list of things you have to do that day are cycling through your head, but you're still sitting in the silence. Be still and know that I am God. Just be still. And that's when you open the doors for the peace of God to rush in and embrace you in a way that nothing else can. Not your best friend, not your spouse, not your church family. Because there are some things that only God can do. And we've all had those moments when it feels like life has just turned against us, and the pain is too much to bear, and the confusion is just racking our brains, and we can't get a moment's peace. The peace of God is still there underneath it all, waiting for you to open the door, even if it's just a crack. Sometimes all we have is the crack, and God can just slip right in there and hold you. Slip right in there. This morning, my husband woke me at 4 a.m. and said, "I think I need to go to urgent care." My husband never says, "It's time to go to urgent care." I think this is the second time in my marriage with him in 16 years that he says, "I think I need to go to the doctor." He never wants to go to the doctor. He toughs everything out. And so you know what you do? You just jump up and you go, right? And so the whole time, we're in urgent care, we're trying to figure out what's happening. And then they said, "Okay, we're not getting what we need here. We need to transfer you to the medical center." But he was able to still walk, and he's fine. He's home now and sleeping, so he's doing pretty good. But I drove him over to urgent care, and the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, be still and know that I am God. Because I was also sitting in the same medical center where my mother was taken when she had her 2 strokes. In the place where I made the decision for her to start hospice. And all that stuff started to rush around me while I'm sitting there with my husband. And I'm thinking, I don't want to do this. And for a moment, my thoughts started to go, and I'm speculating about all the horrible things that could happen to my husband. And then I said, no, let me just be still and know that there is God. And then I thought, why did I want to teach this today? What we teach, we need to learn. I don't want to learn this today. And so I kept saying that over and over to myself. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. And I just repeated it over and over and over again. And so I got him home and settled, and he's sleeping. And I'm getting myself together to come here. And the emotion hits me in the car driving here. And I got to say again, be still and know that I am God. Sometimes you got to repeat it over and over and over till you feel it. And that's okay. So I can remember children going up to the blackboard and having to write, "I forgot my homework," over and over and over. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves what our foundation is. What do you stand on when life rips the rug out from underneath you? What do we stand on? Because it can be ripped out from underneath us at any given moment. Any given moment, just like that. You think you got your day planned, you know how things are going to go, and bam, here it comes. Now what? And the now what is, be still and know that I am God. Be still until you hear that voice within you tell you what the next step is. Be still until you feel that peace fill every single cell of your body, and that it quiets everything in your head. Be still until you're finished with all the tears, with all the emotion, with all the anger, with all the shame, whatever it is that you need to let go of. That same crack that you opened up for Spirit to fill, let the rest of it that you don't need just flow out. Let go and let God. You know, we hold on to things with our fist. And you tighten up. And you just need to let go and do this. Let it go. Be still and know that I am God. It's so simple. But it takes practice. It takes daily practice. Think you have time. Take even 5 minutes to stand on that foundation that is Spirit. That is the Creator. I really do believe the Creator's waiting for us every single moment to open the door and feel the peace that is ours in every single moment. And again, it doesn't mean that the problems go away, that the pain goes away. It just means that God is there and you're saying, I see you, I feel you, I want you. I want peace. Be still and know that I am God. There is only one power and one presence in the universe. God, the good, omnipotent. And when we tap into that, things can change. We change. And sometimes all it takes is for us to see things a little differently and to recognize that underneath it all, there is this foundation. That the breath of life that you have is Spirit, this divine force that is us and is in everything. So yes, give it a chance. And like we talked about last week, if you can't do 5 minutes in the beginning, start with whatever you can do. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then add on another 30 seconds every time you sit down until you can sit. And the more you sit, the more quickly you'll be able to find that space where you feel that peace rush over you and you can just settle in and have it. And then it's yours at any given moment. It's at your disposal. It can be there in your turmoil and in the chaos and in the noise. You can be in a crowded room and it's yours. You could be sitting in ICU with a loved one and it's yours. You can be in the middle of a disagreement and it can be yours. At any given moment. Be still and know. Be still and know that He is holy. Be still, O restless heart of mine. Bow before the Prince of Peace. Let the noise and clamor cease. Be still and know that He is God. Be still and know that He is faithful. Consider all that He has done. Stand in awe and be amazed, and know that He will never change. Be still. Be still and know that He is God. Be still and know that He is God. Be still and know that He is God. Be still. Be speechless. Be still and know that He is God. Be still and know He is our Father. Come rest your head upon His breast. Feel the rhythm of His love, His great unfailing love, beating for His little ones, calling each of us to come. Be still. Be still.